Michael Benabib is an American portrait photographer known for his portraits of David Bowie, Tupac Shakur, Miles Davis, and a whole bunch of late 80s, early 90s hip-hop artists, some of my favorites of all time. His work appears in Vanity Fair, Vogue, GQ, Rolling Stone, Vibe, ESPN Magazine, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Times, NPR, and Newsweek, and his work is also included in photography collections at the Smithsonian and the Museum of Modern Art. I made it.
You made it. I'm impressed.
Okay.
So this is the spot, all right? Most of my live stuff is that way, but my work stuff is this way. We do hair and makeup in there when necessary. There's Run DMC
and there's
against
one
the black paper.
Too.
And here we go. Here's the black paper.
Oh, so they were standing right there?
So this is where it all happened. I've got so much to show you, man.
I can't wait to see all of this. This is amazing. Thanks for having me.
Pictures that were shot here. Mary was shot here. David Byrne was shot here. Snoop was shot right here. This picture of the Fugees was shot right here. As a matter of fact, the Fugees, no one had heard of the Fugees. I used to have this kind of standing agreement with the publicists that if you have any signed artists and you bring them to my studio, I'll shoot them for free. So I did it on my own dime, kind of as a hustle. Because I knew if I took good pictures and then showed them, either the record company would buy them or magazines would use them if they became popular. Obviously, the Fugees became popular.
So this one here of Snoop, he's so young.
He's a baby then.
So is there, you said that was taken in this room.
Right, so here's
Tell me the story about that.
So this picture of Dre was taken the same day. I had a shoot with Dr. Dre, and that was on assignment for a magazine. And so Dre shows up with Snoop, who nobody knows at that point. He's like, this is my boy Snoop. He's going to be the next big thing. Now, you know, every rapper has his protege.
Right.
And, you know, I'm like, yeah, whatever. But I was like, you know, he's Dr. Dre. He can make careers. He's a talented guy. So I took Snoop's picture. That's the picture I took of Snoop. There's some others I did across the street of them together. And so that may be the youngest Snoop photo that you'll see, because he was really before he was famous. I always like to photograph people on the street because it speaks to hip hop, and also there was never a budget for this kind of work. You know, I mean, eventually when I became more successful, there was a budget. We could rent nightclubs and places to shoot, but in the beginning it was just like, what can we do for nothing? So the streets of New York were always very inspiring. I was living in Greenwich Village on Astor Place, and I had a job at a catalog studio photographing toaster ovens and blenders for Bloomingdale's. And I was just an assistant there. I was walking the photographer's dog, cleaning up the floors, kind of more like a janitor than a photo assistant. But I learned a lot there. Every day I would walk from Astor Place to Crosby Street and pass this address, 298 Elizabeth Street, which was the very first office of Def Jam Rush. Mm-hmm. And in front of that storefront, there was always a street scene of happening, whether it was Will Smith or Curious George or Run DMC. This is 1986, outside in front of the storefront. And I realized this is something I should be taking pictures of.
There's one of Will Smith. Is he like wiping his car down?
Yeah.
Right out front, right out. Like
it's so of its time, because it's like, you know, a 1987 BMW. He's so proud of it. It's brand new, you know. And that's on Elizabeth Street right there.
The very first Def Jam record before we got involved with Columbia Records was DJ 001, I Need a Beat by LL Cool J. It's made for $700. And it sold 100,000 copies independently before we hooked up with Columbia.
There was a publicist named Bill Adler, and he said, you should show these pictures to Russell. And I was like, who's Russell? He's like, Russell Simmons. This is his business. He's the president of Def Jam Rush. So I went home, I had a darkroom, I made a contact sheet, put it in an envelope, slipped it under the door, and the next day I got a call. And that was to shoot a kind of publicity handshake picture of someone signing a contract.
Inside Def Jam?
Yeah, and he paid me $125.
When I start thinking about some of the people who have come through these walls, is there any, I'm sure there's a lot of stories, but is anything jumping out as somebody who was really gracious, or maybe the opposite of that?
Well, I mean, gracious, the most gracious person in the business, I think, was Heavy D. Heavy D was such a warm, beautiful soul. I had this one, I was on assignment for the Source magazine, and I went to his house, and I had dinner with his mom in his house, in his basement, shooting pool. Mike Tyson was there. And I have a great picture of Mike Tyson shooting pool. And it was just that afternoon. You know, Eddie F., one of the boys, an incredible producer, he then developed a relationship with me because he got a record deal and he would bring all his artists here, this group Intro, for kind of like a shoot so they could help figure out what way they were going to go visually with these different groups. So my relationship with Heavy and Eddie, you know, they were beautiful people.
The first time I met you, I think, I was searching for the Rakim Benzito photograph, and I was stumped. I thought it's got to be near Def Jam. It's got to be near Def Jam. I'm wandering all around Elizabeth Street and Bleecker Street, and I think I found one that said it was on Bleecker, and I'm like, it's not on Bleecker. I can't find it. And I reached out to you. I just sent you like a cold call email or a message. And I said, I'm Andy Katz. I would love to know more about this photograph. And you were so gracious about it. I think minutes later, you're like, it's on Bleecker and Crosby. And I was like, done. So I like hustled down there. I walked down there, and the buildings are exactly the same. It's right there. And I took the picture and mashed it up.
There was a lot of Faith Evans photos that someone had called me for Faith Evans photos because they were doing something. And then I realized when I went through the binder that a lot of these photos have not been scanned and have not been seen.
That's so cool, just like that.
You know? So here's Faith. I mean, it was so nice to work with her. It really was.
And this was taken here?
This one was taken here. Yep.
And this was after Biggie died?
I don't think so. I mean, you know, and again, the ones that were the best are the ones with the marks, and they're missing.
Oh, okay.
Because, you know, some record company wanted to buy that picture. We shot this on Randall's Ward's Island. We had 18 stunt motorcycle riders for the shoot. It was a crazy day. I permitted it. I was also very nervous about someone getting hurt. I hired an ambulance on standby.
Wow.
They were doing burnouts in the basketball court. I got a bill from the city for $18,000 to repave the basketball court.
Did you have to pay it?
Rough Rider.
Okay, I was gonna say. So this is pretty fantastic. You shot Miles Davis.
I shot Miles Davis. You know, I grew up with jazz in my household. I got that job. I was so excited. I called my dad. You know, it's another one of those stories where this frame is the only frame I have of the entire shoot. I gave the shoot to Def Jam because he was working with Easy Mo Bee that day, and they were doing an album together.
And this was shot at Def Jam?
No, that was shot in the recording studio.
Okay.
And the only thing I have left is before I'd shoot a roll of 12, I would pull the first frame out, cut it, and develop it, and to see if I needed to adjust my exposure in the development. That was called a clip test. All I had was the clip test of that picture, that one frame. There must be 100 other frames that I don't know where they are.
Really?
Yeah, and he was great also because he taught me something about photography that I still use to this day. So when I'm photographing people, if you incorporate their hands into the photo, it becomes much more interesting. He had great hands, and he kept bringing his hands into the photo, and it made it so much of a better picture.
You kind of knew what to do.
You know, and now it's, again, it's something I incorporate. I work a lot now as a photographer, and giving someone direction with something to do with their hands makes them more comfortable and makes the picture better. So he
Pearls of wisdom.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you recognize some of these places. You know,
oh, wow.
This view here hasn't changed very much. And then I think you can see the church there.
Well,
right?
this looks like where the LL Cool J
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
All right.
There's been some crazy shit that's gone down on this roof.
All right, so if you move to the left a little bit, you won't be in the picture this time. I got you in it.
Oh, here. Check this out. Find that. It's still here.
Oh, right there. Nice. All right, cool. So were you down low? Do you ever squat down and look up kind of thing? Like it's
Tell me when you got it.
I got it.
Here's the Snoop.
Oh, wow.
And this is, again, this is right across the street. What is now a sushi restaurant was an Oriental rug store. You know, I'm just looking for something that's luminescent and
It almost looks like bricks.
Yeah, you would never know what it is
right.
if I didn't tell you. Just turn one page. Here we are, brand Nubian. This was for High Times magazine.
Where was this shot?
Shot right here.
In here. Oh my gosh. Wow.
High Times magazine was always a crazy party. It was a mixture of hippies, hip hoppers. I remember I fucked up. I was so stoned shooting the Snoop album cover because they wanted the photo on one side and the blurbs of what's inside on either to the right or the left, and I did it wrong.
Speaking of Snoop, there's a photograph in this room where he was smoking and getting his hair done. Can you show us where that happened?
It was during the High Times shoot, which was the third shoot we had done together. And he's at this table. He's getting his braids done.
And I know you said the windows have changed.
Yeah, they used to be casement windows.
But it was right here.
It was right here. You know, at this table.
So I'm going to take a shot or two looking up the steps. So there's several that were taken right here looking up. Michael was down here, and Aaliyah was on the left. Run DMC was taken looking up the stairs. So I've seen a few pictures that were taken right here looking up the steps. So I'm just taking pictures that I can mash up with his photos later.
You know, I like photographing different bands in the same environment because it's not about the composition of the photo, it becomes about what they bring to it. This picture was shot right here, okay? So we're on 5 looking down towards 4. And so see if you can frame it up and make it look like this.
Yeah, so you must have been standing around here?
I think so. I think so. He has his hand on that banister.
Okay. Oh yeah. And that angle, the white angle at the top right corner,
yeah, I think
is
you're right.
the beam of the...
That's exactly what it is.
Okay. Yeah.
You can see the stairs? I think that's it exactly.
Yep.
You've been doing this.
This is the fun part. Yeah, this is the fun part, matching up with you did.
I love to collaborate, man. This is good.
That's right.
Oh, this.
Dre and Snoop. Oh, yeah. So he was leaning against the back?
Same thing. Yeah,
same exact thing,
yeah,
right?
he's leaning against the back.
All the, yeah. So that's right there.
Yeah.
So what's nice about doing it horizontally is that when I mash up your picture over the new one, it'll have some context.
Oh, that's cool. That's great. That's why it's good to shoot wide.
Yep. Another pearl of wisdom.
We're trading them.
Nice.
After I did the shoot here with Snoop and Dre, they flew me out to LA. And I did this shoot with Dr. Dre, paid for by Interscope Records. But Suge Knight, who I didn't know and didn't know his reputation, had all these other artists that he was managing that he wanted me to photograph. And I want to make people happy. So, we start the shoot at noon. He keeps, while he's doing his changes, he's like, can you shoot this girl group? Can you shoot this person? It's like, yeah, I'm here. I love my job. Let's do it. But eventually it's about 11:30 at night. I'm getting tired, and he brings another group. And I'm like, I think we've done enough. And he's like, no, man, just one. And I'm like, everyone's calling him cousin. I'm like, listen, cousin, we've had enough. And everybody's like, oh, shit, no, you didn't. But, it all worked out.
Now, had you known his reputation?
If I had known his reputation, I don't think I would have confronted him and called him cousin.
Right. Oh, man. And so this is not hip-hop, but this is something that would appeal to just about anybody I know. Where was this shot? What's the story about you getting a chance to shoot David Bowie? So
I get a call from Blender magazine, and the editor says to me, you're going to have 15 minutes with David Bowie. We're going to have 15 minutes for the interview, and then you're going to have 15 minutes for photography. It's like, wow, I better use my time wisely. They also told me that they wanted him photographed against a white background, which at that time I didn't think was a good use of my time. I like photographing environments.
It seems like it's really different from a lot of your other work, for sure.
So I brought my background, I brought my lights. But the real story is that since I knew I was going to have 15 minutes with him, I went to the studio the day before to check out the room and know what I was going to do. It was Philip Glass's studio called Looking Glass Studio on Lower Broadway.
Philip Glass is a composer?
A composer,
music,
Philip Glass,
right.
the composer.
Right.
I go to the receptionist, I'm here to photograph Mr. Bowie tomorrow. Can I look at the room? And she was like, sure, it's the second door on the right. I go to the second door on the right, open the door, and there he is.
What?
And I'm like, I'm sorry. And he was like, come on in. He had a mock-up of his stage. We spent a half an hour talking. And I said, I've taken enough of your time. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll have my 15 minutes. Wow. I came back tomorrow. I had my 15 minutes.
Wow.
So I did this photo, and then I did a more artistic one, which is that flashlight painting technique that I do. Did
they end up using one, or?
Yeah, they did. Blender magazine was before the internet, really. And you would buy it on a CD-ROM.
Oh, wow.
And so that's why they wanted white, because they would do a GIF, animate the picture.
Oh, okay.
And that's why they wanted the white background.
Several, too. They wanted several.
Several images that they could animate, because it was something on your computer that moved like a movie.
So these were almost an animation sequence. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
A lot of times I would photograph artists on their press day, and they would do an interview and then the photo shoot right after, and it was in an office with fluorescent lighting, like a square shoebox office in an office building. And that's where my flashlight painting technique came into being, because I could just put someone against a white wall, turn off the lights in the room, open the shutter, paint them with a flashlight. It was always magic when I'd pull a Polaroid and show people what I was doing. They wouldn't understand what it was that I was taking a flashlight and painting them in the face. Right. Blackstreet, Teddy Riley, this is the flashlight technique. Right? You can see where I traced the room. You can see the movement
of your arm. Wow.
So I say, look, it's a 4-second exposure. I turn off the lights in the room and I say, do not move for 4 seconds.
And it still stays that clear.
There's something about telling someone not to move for 4 seconds that changes the psychology of the photo. They get very serious. I'm like, you can't waver, you can't move, you have to be like a fucking rock.
Yeah.
The DMX was lit literally just by a flashlight, you'd use when the lights went out in your basement and you had to go down.
Otherwise he'd be totally backlit?
I just needed a little spot of light, I think we're coming up on it.
So it's in this building here?
It's not this one, it's this one.
Oh, this archway here.
Yeah, you can see it's an archway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there it is on the right.
These are these lines. Right?
Oh, yeah, it just doesn't have the gate anymore.
I mean, it's crazy that the gate isn't there anymore.
And it's a shame that the 401 at the top is gone, too.
It's fun stuff, man.
Nice. Yeah. Do you remember being here doing this?
Yeah, I do. Irv Gotti hired me.
Okay.
Irv Gotti said, I have a new artist named DMX. I want you to do a shoot with him. So it was really one of his first shoots. And, you know, DMX was very humble then. And it was this is the only picture you'll see of DMX where he's not talking and doing his thing and being DMX.
Right.
He's just chilling. This is kind of the wider shot with the back and the hoodies.
Yeah.
Then we've got the kind of close-up. Then we've got the one which is really my favorite. I don't know, which is your favorite?
I actually like the one where he's straight on with the two members of his crew.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, that's
fun
so
one.
cool.